welcome to Star Wars for 100 Days, the ultimate fan countdown leading up to the release of Star Wars The Force Awakens. Speaking of which, we are only 53 days away from the release of the 7th chapter in the Star Wars saga. Let's get hyped, guys, we're almost there. But for the time being, let's relish in the badassery that is Star Wars Clone Wars, the animated series from 2003. Today we're going to talk about Chapter 24, the second to last episode of the series, and one hell of an action-packed episode that demonstrates that General Grievous is one of the coolest, most creative characters that George Lucas and his team ever came up with. This episode has two different stories going on. The first one involves Anakin Skywalker. He's still on the planet of Nelvon, and he's infiltrating the Techno-Union's secret base, where they're doing these freaky experiments on the natives, the Nelvan warriors, actually transforming them into these giant, grotesque beasts with cybernetic enhancements and giant guns on their arms. This story is very slow and somber, and it also features a big premonition for Anakin Skywalker. It gives him a vision of him actually becoming Darth Vader. As he's making his way through the caves, he sees these cave drawings which were done by the Nelvons, and then he suddenly sees a vision of these cave drawings coming to life, showing him becoming Darth Vader. It even ends with them actually all merging together, making it look like the mask of Darth Vader in a geometric pattern. It's really creepy, but as soon as he snaps right back to, he's immediately at the Techno-Union base, getting ready to kick some ass. I'm a really big Star Wars fan, but I mostly just watch the movies and all the TV shows. I don't really follow the books all that much. I play a few of the video games, so I don't know too much about a lot of the characters who appear in this episode. Like, I don't know their names. Like, the Techno-Union guys, like, I don't really know much about them. All I know is that one member of their race appeared in Attack of the Clones. His name was Wat Tambor. He had one line of dialogue in the entire film. And then, of course, you have the Jedi. There's this three-man team which is actually protecting Emperor Palpatine in this episode. There's Shaak-Ti and these two other Jedis. There's this one Ithorian, which is this, like, half-human, half-snail-looking guy who has the ability to, like, destroy things with just the vibrations of his throats, and that's because he has more than one. And then there's this one big fuzzy guy who's this Jedi with, like, 4 different eyes, and he kind of reminds me of that one alien from Star Wars Episode 4 in the Cantina. I think it's the same exact race. He even makes, like, the same noise. But they're going to be protecting Emperor Palpatine from General Grievous, who proceeds to chase these Jedi all over Coruscant in this very large action scene, which is really intense. But before we even get to that, we get this amazingly badass scene of General Grievous just completely destroying this entire battalion of clone troopers and guards, and doing it in such a violent and amazing fashion, slashing them, beheading them, crushing them, slamming them into walls, throwing them out of windows. I especially love the scene where all the Jedi and Chancellor Palpatine are right next to this elevator, and they can actually hear all of the damage that's going on in the other room, and the noises are just unearthly. It's so funny, especially because while they're sitting there waiting, the Ithorian Jedi is constantly hitting the down button on the elevator. It's really funny and adds a little bit of humor to this otherwise really tense scene, which just progressively gets even crazier, especially when they get down to the ground. The Ithorian Jedi does another one of those big throat roar attacks, which just completely sends this big badass shockwave right towards General Grievous, but he actually is able to condense his body down and use his clawed feet to bring himself forward. That's when they finally decide to take the chase to this subway station, where you get to see the Jedi actually jumping in between the trains, Shaak-Ti throwing Grievous's Magna Guards into the trains themselves. It's a scene that is just so gorgeously done, and I really cannot do it justice. You kind of have to see it for yourself. I especially love the way that they get away from General Grievous in this episode, because Grievous gets right up in Shaak-Ti's grill, but she actually uses the power of the Force to take his cape, wrapping it around a train, which suddenly just takes off like a bullet. Capes may look cool, but they can always end up biting you in the ass. This episode was just so intense. The action scenes, especially the ones which took place in Coruscant, were practically never ending. There was very little dialogue, and it was all pretty continuous. That's what I really love about this episode. And just getting to see some of the more weirder looking Jedi. You know, a human Jedi is a dime a dozen. When you get these weird snail looking creatures and big fuzzy guys, and just getting to see the way they fight compared to the other different Jedi, it's really awesome, especially because of that one snail Jedi, the Ithorian, who has the ability to use that giant throat roar ability. Just, it looks really cool, too. Especially love seeing Shaak Ti use a lot of the Force in this episode, not only against the Magna Guards, but that scene where General Grievous was running at them in the hallway and dodging all of the attacks, and she suddenly caught him when he was against the wall, pushing him up against it. It looked really great. Definitely one of the better big action sequences from the series, and it's all building up to an amazing climax. Another thing that's great about this episode, of course, is General Grievous. Just a fantastically intimidating character, especially at the beginning, when he just destroys all the clone troopers and all the guards. He just does it in such an amazingly violent but beautiful way. It's just so well done, and it just really makes me wish he could have been a little more threatening in the movie versions. I still think he looks cool in the movie, but just compared to the animated version, it's just night and day. You just can't compare the two. Animated General Grievous is a freaking boss. Even way more so in this version than in the 2008 series Star Wars The Clone Wars, where he, again, is kind of turned into a slightly comical, bumbling villain who always loses. And I think that's really annoying, because General Grievous is so freaking cool. General Grievous was like the one character in Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith that I really, really liked. And before the movie came out, I was really anticipating seeing him, because they didn't show him too much in the promotional material. So when we actually went to the movie and saw it like at midnight release and saw him for the first time in all of its glory, it was really awesome. He just looked so damn cool. He sounded awesome. He had 4 arms with the lightsabers. Just, he really had a cool air about him. He was probably my favorite thing about the prequel trilogies, to be perfectly honest. I think General Grievous is just a really cool and unique character, and he's sort of like the precursor to Darth Vader, of course, because he's an alien who's being kept alive on a life support system, sort of like letting you know that, this is going to happen to Anakin Skywalker eventually. The Anakin Skywalker story is also good, but it really doesn't come into its own until the next episode, which just so happens to be the final episode of Star Wars Clone Wars, and it is quite a doozy. But that is a discussion for another day. So, I like this episode clearly. I'm pretty much smitten with the entire series. I really have no problem with it whatsoever. But I would love to hear from you guys. Did you watch this episode of Clone Wars, or maybe the entire series? What did you think of the big chase scene with General Grievous and all of the Jedi? Do you like Anakin's story? What do you want to see from the brand new movie Star Wars The Force Awakens? Please tell me in the comments section below. Thank you guys for watching this discussion. Make sure to like it, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, may the Force be with you.